Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Discussions, where we talk movies, music, and everything in between. I'm your host, as usual, Adrian, aka Moved Mantis, here with my amazing co-host.
Hey, I'm Daniel, aka Rated DG-13, and I don't even want to beat around the bush. I just want to get right into Superman.
Yeah, we just saw Superman yesterday, and it's not woke, guys. It's not woke, unfortunately. It's not. It's just about a nice guy doing nice things, and I guess now every Republican just thinks if you're nice, you're woke, for whatever reason. But yeah, we just saw it yesterday, and I gotta say, it was really a breath of fresh air. I think I said that like right after it ended, that like this is what Superman needed to be. This is a superhero movie we kind of needed to have right now, and what I kind of thought was this big, just kind of fatigue of like good superhero films for like a while, for like the last like 3 or 4 years. Probably even longer. When did Endgame come out?
2019.
What was that? 2019? Oh my god. I'm getting old. Oh man. But yeah, it's just gonna say that this is just what I wanted. This is what I wanted out of a Superman movie, and this is how Superman, I think, really should be.
Yeah, so here's my deal with Superman. Like, he has always been around in my childhood, and I always like loved consuming the cartoons and like any comic I could get my hands on, even though I wasn't super consistent, reading comics. I just like liked reading about him every time I went to the library. But when it comes to movies, I really never had like that one particular Superman that was like, oh yeah, this one is like my Superman, because like I saw most of the original one a long time ago on TV, and I liked it, but like I never felt the need to rewatch it. And I will after this, especially since like people are saying it took a lot of inspiration from it. It's obviously not one-to-one, but like, I do want to go into it, especially with the context of like the state of superhero movies nowadays, to just see like what just a pure idea of like what a superhero movie could be back then, which is just like no preconceptions, just like how do you make this character work. I'm very curious to see it now. I didn't see any of the sequels. I saw Superman Returns, the Brandon Routh one, and that one is super nostalgic for me, and I've seen it a fair few times, like every like maybe like 5 or more years, just to check in on it, see if like that holds up, because I love Bryan Singer's X-Men movies. I do not love Bryan Singer, but I think he nails the X-Men so well that every time I rewatch his Superman movie, there's like it kind of bums me out, because like I just don't see how he gets that movie so not exciting. I really love the suit. I like Brandon Routh as Superman in general. I really love Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. I think he is just like he's an amazing actor, and I think that he brings just enough like crazy to it to like make that character like intimidating but also kind of hilarious.
Yeah, no, my first exposure to that was just like I didn't know for a long time that was from that movie. It's that clip of him
Wrong!
saying like, "Oh, wrong!" Yeah, I saw that clip just so much growing up and being on the internet, and I've still yet to watch that Superman movie. Unfortunately, my first Superman movie was Man of Steel.
Yeah,
but I mean, I liked the character in the comics and the animated show like way before that. But continue.
But yeah, like the movie as a whole, Superman Returns, just really not that interesting. It's very dour. It's almost as dour as Zack Snyder's, just like less kind of homicidal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we go to Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League, and Henry Cavill, man, he looks the part. I just feel so bad. He looks
great.
Yeah, I just feel so bad with like the cards he was dealt. He was doing his best, but like he's just Zack Snyder's version of him just loves the the mythic kind of godlike angle of him so much that like he loses most sympathy for me as far as like and like as a kid it was kind of like it was just the only modern option. So for a long time I really really wanted to like it. Like I watched it a few times and I kind of enjoyed it, but like even like as far back as seeing it in the theater, I remember that climax just like I was covering my ears for like the almost the entire last third of that movie. And by the time it ended, my dad was like, "What'd you think?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it was great." My body was like reacting to it in the reasonable way, but I just needed to have one Superman movie that I actually liked, and like pretty much none of them were really doing what Batman was able to do, which is like portray different versions of him to varying levels of success, but just like make an exciting movie. And I think he's strangely hard to capture in live action because like the Bruce Timm era of animation, from the Superman cartoon from the 90s to Justice League, like that's absolutely perfect. He's not 100% stoic, but he takes matters seriously when like the world's in jeopardy. But he's also extremely friendly, and he has like just a incredible voice. And obviously in animation you can do all these crazy things, and like you have plenty of time in a TV show to like really build him up, and like you get to know his close human friends and like these superhero friends. And something about Superman, like in the movies, like they just don't really, I mean, it's not that complicated as far as like what people know about Superman. Everyone knows where he comes from and stuff, but just like, I don't know, like barring Richard Donner, but like just like the exact wrong people were chosen for these modern adaptations, and he's just kind of been like quietly sidelined. As iconic as he is, he hasn't really had the chance to shine like a Spider-Man or an Iron Man or any number of like Marvel characters. And I think that kind of like brought down a lot of the rest of the DC universe, because like you kind of want the core faces of both Marvel and DC to be done right. And when they're not, they're kind of just like, struggling to figure out like, okay, what are we really going to do for like his, like, do people really want to see Green Lantern? Do they want to see the Flash? Do they want to see Cyborg and stuff like that? Because they have a lot of like fan and like general appeal for people who will just like watch them on TV and stuff, but like they're just kind of intimidating because like the guy who you would think would be so easy to get because everyone knows who Superman is has just been so hard to get. So yeah, now we finally get to this movie, directed by James Gunn. And when that was announced, I was pretty skeptical because as much as I have really enjoyed his movies so far, they've been, if nothing else, extremely consistent, and he has gotten more and more grand in his scope, and he has proven to be able to just like capture the right tone for every kind of superhero movie that he's done really well, and like infuse a lot of good heart into it. It's just something about him taking the reins for Superman. It's very different for him after doing like Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad, which felt so right for him.
And just things he could have a little bit more freedom on, since they're not this worldwide icon of a character. And I think that's really where a lot of those other adaptations go wrong. They just kind of overthink Superman, which I always felt was like a pretty simple, straightforward character, but they're just so worried about properly feeding this icon to you that you kind of lose a lot of the simplicity of what he's supposed to be, which is just like a nice dude.
Yeah. When it comes to this movie, I would say the root of the character has never been better captured in a live action movie. Maybe in those Arrow, like those CW shows, I don't know, maybe in Smallville, but I'm just going off of the movies. This is the closest Superman has ever been to the roots of his character which is just
Mm-hmm.
I am a man who stands for good, and I want to help everyone around me as much as possible.
Yeah.
I hate the loss of life. And
Mm-hmm.
so the most important thing about this movie was done really well. But
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that right off the bat that I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, but it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of sort of bordering on that line of like it doesn't quite feel like the best like what I want out of a superhero movie ideally
Uh-huh.
for me personally. How did it the movie as a whole work for you?
I think all the parts showing him and his character and his interactions with the main villain, Lex Luthor, um, I think all those were pretty good. I just think a lot of the stuff surrounding him, mostly the side characters and a lot of the other side superheroes, just kind of felt like just super underdeveloped. I think they were fun. Like I really enjoyed Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. Like he was probably my favorite side character, but I just feel like a lot of them there were just too many of them, and they just did not give the proper time to a lot of those characters. Like I literally, if you ask me right now, I literally saw the movie yesterday. And if you asked me like what is Mr. Terrific, like what is his powers, what can he do, I could not like explain it to you because I didn't really get any of that from the movie. And I just feel like a lot of their ideas, besides kind of the main ones, which is just the plot and Lex Luthor and Superman, are just really like kind of underbaked. But I still very much enjoyed his interactions with everybody. I just wish they either cut down the side characters a little or at least gave them more time. But then again, this was still like a 2 hour fucking movie.
It's pretty interesting because on one hand, for like a 2 hour movie, it was extremely efficient with its time, and it knew
Mm-hmm.
like there was never a dull moment for me personally. It
Yeah.
never dwelled too long on anything to where it's like, oh my gosh, I really want to just get back to the cool stuff. I think it's like they kind of took the new Batman approach where it's like I think there's one scene with Clark Kent in his glasses,
Yeah.
and the rest of it is pretty much just Superman.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to describe this is that it really feels like one of the best kind of animated DC movies. Like those straight to video
Mm-hmm.
ones?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like Public Enemies, for example. I really love that
Mm-hmm.
graphic novel, and I love the movie adaptation of it. But you just throw someone in, like cold, who
Yeah.
has no
Yeah.
idea who like any of
Yeah.
these characters are besides like the main Batman, Superman, Lex Luthor. Like there are a lot of people in that, and some
Mm-hmm.
really good characters, but like it's just gonna look really weird, like just kind of going into it cold, and like a lot like these like Justice League Unlimited, the TV show, for example. That one kind of took the approach of just like, all right, so we've done the main team for Justice League. Now they've broadened their scope of like heroes, and it's just going to be you're going to get a bunch of different people every week, and you don't really have to explain all of them. Sometimes you do if they're pretty interesting, and most of the time it's just like, what are some fun characters that we can do for this mission?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what this movie felt like. Was like, I'm just looking at this poster. There's the engineer, there's Lex Luthor, there's Ultraman, Metamorpho, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl, and then Superman and his friends and Crypto and Lex Luthor's girlfriend. There's so many things going on.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
like, and I think for like it's really important for the first movie if you want to make a new universe and everything. The simpler the first movie is, the better. You really do not have to set up that much going forward. People know if
Yeah.
the first movie's likable, we're gonna want more of it, and it's not like it was that integral to the plot that like spoilers, Supergirl shows up at the very end.
Yeah, or that they're forming the Justice Gang.
Yeah.
Like they're fucking.
I think, like, as I'm watching it, they do use these characters as much as they can, but as far as like just making a more coherent, like, it wasn't hard to
Hmm.
understand. I just wish that like these characters that were closer to Superman were had
Hmm.
more of a focus, and then you can do
Yep.
like the Justice League stuff later. It's like it really does feel like you're just thrown into the deep end and like, expected to swim or sink, because like I can understand why a lot of people found this like pretty hard to get into. And yeah, it's just kind of been a pet peeve of mine for like a lot of you know just like first entries, as far as like introducing new characters. Like it kind of bugs me that like, Civil War is like a pretty good movie, but that's kind of like the first Black Panther movie like ever, and then like
Hmm.
Flash is, that's the first Flash movie, and it's already this super convoluted plot that involves the DCU timeline, and then the entire DC cinematic, all of those ventures from like unmade
Yeah.
projects to, famous project. And it's
Hmm.
just like I just want to see him run and like, maybe do tornadoes. He doesn't have to have all these like
Yeah,
insane
he doesn't need
crazy
to
powers like right off the
see.
bat. Like people just know him for being fast. Just like you could do something fine like without like
Yeah.
overstuffing it with all this stuff. And
Yeah,
for some reason
especially
that's
because
just
they
like
based it
how.
off
Yeah.
they based it off a very like complicated story, which was DC's like Flashpoint, which was a time where they kind of really wanted to reset everything, but also kind of pay off a lot of the fans that had been reading comics for like 50 years. And to try to start with something as big and complicated as that, I think, yeah, it was just like a big misstep. And
Mm-hmm.
not to say this one did the same thing, but it also, I think, kind of what you were saying, just kind of overwhelmed the audience. At least, like, say, like your average movie superhero goer, like me. I knew mostly everybody besides like Mr. Terrific, really, and I still thought it was all kind of like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
to just kind of like cram in, and we're already like, I think, what was it, like 3 years into him being like Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And if maybe they didn't start in such like a middle place, it could have been a little bit more digestible,
Mm-hmm.
and not so. I don't know. It's full of stuff, but yet, like you said, like I also agree that the time flew by really. Like it did not feel like I was in there for 2 hours, because I was just interested in what was going on, and the pace kept up, and there was no really big downtime. But when you just assault people with so much like information, you just kind of get bogged down by all that. At least, I can see a lot of people getting bogged down like that.
Yeah. And, to its credit, I think it succeeds more than most who have these like huge casts. And obviously, just knowing James Gunn, he has worked with like superhero teams before and obscure characters before, and like he's pretty good at making
Mm-hmm.
most of them really likable. Um, but yeah, just like for a Superman project, I don't know if he's just more comfortable writing for like this many characters as opposed to just like, you know, like one really good central one. Like he hasn't done that since like arguably Super in like 2010.
Yeah.
Like ever since then, he's just kind of like can't seem to help himself. I'm remembering as far back as like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where there are like 5 post-credit scenes of like all these like different like Ravenger characters, and like that never
Mm-hmm.
really goes anywhere. And I just have to wonder why. Like I'm sure him
Mm-hmm.
being such a comic book fan, he just loves those characters from the comics. But like when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to putting them into a movie, there are people that you can cut, and it would still
Yeah.
function, if not, the same, if not better, for just a cleaner cut movie. And it's just kind of like the state of superhero movies that we're in, where like for some reason people just aren't, or studios don't think audiences are keen on just focusing on like one guy. I mean, Blue Beetle
Mm-hmm.
came out like semi recently, and that was like, a little below average but simple enough. And maybe that was like their kind of litmus test of like, oh, people don't want, really simple stories. They want really recognizable heroes and as many of them as possible at once. So
yeah.
But I think I'm done harping on that in particular. I'm going to try to talk more about stuff that I actually liked.
Yeah. What did you think of I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but the guy who played Lex Luthor.
Oh, Nicholas
also
Hoult?
played Beast. Yeah, Nicholas Hoult. How did you feel as him and as Lex Luthor? Because I really think, honestly, I think he really stole the show. Like, he was probably my favorite character in the entire movie. But yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, he really brought his A game to it. I really love him as an actor, and I think that this interpretation of him fits perfectly within this story. I personally like the commanding presence of Clancy Brown, Mr. Krabs, from the animated show
cartoon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, I still kind of see him as like a really young guy, Nicholas Hoult. So I wasn't really sure, if he was the best option for him. Mm-hmm. But as far as like a just a really cocky, pissy businessman, he embodies that really well, and he very convincingly communicates his sheer hatred for Superman, and not only convincingly but like clearly, which is way better than Jesse Eisenberg, because like that was just like a completely different creature, and his reason for hating him, while initially like okay, he's like a Reddit atheist, I guess. He doesn't like the idea of someone that powerful existing. Just like the way he goes about it is so fucking bizarre and like contradictory. Like you're gonna manipulate Batman into killing him to prove that man can defeat a god, but also create a god just in case. And what do you think? What were we gonna do with that after he killed Superman anyway? I don't know.
Like if he had succeeded, like you just keep him in the fucking freezer for later.
Yeah,
but I agree. It was just too. I think a lot of the time it was just too eccentric and too, like he was trying to be this big like mastermind, and like the best thing about Lex Luthor, I think, is the way he is just human, and he to fight this kind of like invincible man, the only way you can really do it is with his brain, and then he's super smart, and while not super complicated, it was still his plan throughout the film, like made sense and had a lot of like branches to it, opposed to like you were saying, Jesse Eisenberg. I think just kind of like you said, just had all these maybes, kind of this might happen, but just in case it doesn't happen, this other thing might happen, and then it just all kind of falls apart when you think about it for too long. But in this one, it was so. I want to say simple, but for the best thing about it was that it was straightforward. Like he just wanted to get rid of Superman, just through all this like kind of complicated but clever and understandable like setups.
Yeah,
from the like the monkeys like all like online hating him, and like framing him to be like this like dictator alien trying to take over the world.
Yeah, Superman be straight clowning right now.
Super. I forgot, what did they say in the movie, like super shit or whatever.
Yeah, hashtag super shit. You fool! I have 70 alternative accounts.
Yeah, basically. And it's something like understandable. It's not like, oh, I somehow got this like alien from this rock, and then I have all this goo that I put him in, and that's gonna create this homunculus that'll come to life somehow.
Yeah, it was like
it was all like.
It had a lot of moving pieces, Nicholas Holt's plan, but it was all these things that I could see benefiting him in like all these different aspects, and not just like, oh well, I don't really know. I'll just keep throwing whatever at him and see what sticks. It was like,
and then if this fails, well, I have this, like, oh, if I can't, or if I do beat him, I can take over this country, but if I can't, I can still try to like kill him.
Yeah. Again, like with those side characters, like the Ultraman, and the engineer. I feel like you kind of should have just had one or the other. I think it's okay that like Lex Luthor has like a side like partner to help him defeat Superman. You need like at least one guy for Superman to punch, and like oh my gosh, even the monster he creates, that's a whole just kind of out of nowhere like semi reasonable thing I could see him doing as a super genius, but at the same time just like it is still just so what the hell like where did this come from?
Like where did this come from? Like where did he get that thing?
I feel like in the Suicide Squad that that giant kaiju battle at the end was like so much better built up. It was like this weird secret like that was hidden from people, and they by the time you figured out what they were hiding, it was explained in a well enough way where it was like, okay, yeah, we've earned this, and it doesn't feel like this like side like thing happening during like the larger scope of the story. But back to what I was saying about his his lackeys, I guess. It was kind of like sad to see where Ultraman's thing went, because he starts off and he's in this like robot suit for some reason, and that's just to kind of like feed into this conspiracy about these like warring fictional nations. And again, it just kind of starts, and then immediately they drop that, and it's like, oh, okay, so that was the same character, all right. And then by the end you find out that he's actually Bizarro, reverse Superman or whatever. And it was I feel like that could have been something pretty interesting, seeing as like Superman, and like people are like annoyed when like the bad guy is just the superhero, like the exact same powers but the evil version of them. But I feel like it would have fit thematically with the movie being like kind of this is what Lex Luthor fears, or this is who he prefers him to be. Like if this guy has to exist, I would rather he be controlled like through me, because I ultimately want control. And then like Superman defeating that image of him, or like just something like that. And
even like goes into the whole questioning yourself kind of angle that they went with, which I also really enjoyed, kind of that little change of his origin, that his parents like legitimately like I'm glad they didn't like reveal that, oh yeah, Lex Luthor like tampered with the message. Like that was that no, that was just like straight up the actual message. They like actually wanted him to come and like take over the world.
Yeah, just straight but Viltrumite like kind of.
Yeah, like straight up. But it's that kind of message of choice, and that your actions dictate kind of who you are, and instead of where you come from.
Yeah, I'm always a fan
kind
of that.
Also resembled in the like kind of the Bizarro thing with Ultraman, where he's kind of just this like dumb drone just kind of doing whatever Lex Luthor wants.
But again, it just kind of happens, and then he gets into that portal. So I don't know if he's like being refrigerated for like a later movie or anything, but it just kind of happens at the very end, and you're just kind of like it doesn't feel like it's that impactful by the time that's really revealed. And I just wish that like just scaling back the amount of like superheroes in this, you could have had a little bit more intrigue, maybe like I don't know, show some of that start out, and that kind of having more of a build up throughout, to where by the time that is revealed, it's it's something that feels as I guess I won't spoil which movie it is, but there is an X-Men movie where something like that happens, and it's legitimately like like crucial to the entire thing, and that feels like really scary when you do see the bad guy acting exactly like the good guy, and it embodies all of his fears about like who he is deep down. Is this like what he's destined to be? And it's just kind of like just another thing of many things in this movie. And I was just thinking like way back in Spider-Man 3. Remember when people were like, 3 villains? Is that too many people? Like how much things have changed since then. Like to where people are just kind of they're just kind of used to like 10 people minimum.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
10 like main players on both like the superhero side and the villain side.
Hmm. On the villain
And
side, yeah.
I really
Each
miss
side
that
has to have
simplicity.
at least like 6 or 7 people, or like 4 or 5. Like in even in something like Infinity War, which I really liked. Like Thanos had all these like this like family of like goons that like they never really explain what they are, what they do, and they just kind of are just there to so the other heroes have something to fight.
Hmm. Yeah, but again, like that's okay because they are just his lackeys. No, they don't really pretend to have they
Hmm.
don't have any connection to like any of the heroes. They're just like interesting enough scary monsters for people to fight, but like they interact with
Hmm.
Thanos like through every uh plot, like side plot and main plot, uh and it's enough for a culmination of movies, that have led their way to this event to, feel a lot more earned as opposed to just like, all right off the bat, we're we're doing just so many. And I'm fine with like this world already being used to superheroes because the audiences are, and you don't really have to
Hmm.
like, check off every single one.
Yeah.
But I just like miss that, that like perfect like simplicity of like I can watch this independently of anything and I don't have to think about what's to come or what came before, the context. Because like,
Hmm.
say what you will about Man of Steel or the Richard Donner Superman or, any, earlier incarnation of him, but like the kids growing up with those interpretations will know what Superman is, from those movies. And I just feel like a kid watching this will pretty much only, I mean they'll be entertained, but it's just like they'll only really get it like properly. And like I feel like this would stick better with people if they already know who Superman is. And the longer these remakes go
Hmm.
on of these extremely popular characters that we've seen just like so many times, like I don't like this idea of like the movies knowing that we've seen that so many times and just kind of like speed running it as
Hmm.
quickly as possible because they just kind of feel
Hmm.
less, engaging to me, or
Hmm.
not engaging but like less compelling as narratives.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it as like a movie and not just like a strong superhero or Superman movie. Like it doesn't really function that uh, clean, uh, just like by
Hmm.
itself.
Yeah.
But as far as like what this means for like what kind of stuff is to come, as long as they still have a variety of voices and they pick people who actually care about the characters and have something new and interesting to do with them, but just like keep the core of their essence intact. I don't really mind overall. I just hope that like any future project will just like stay more focused and won't like
Yeah.
be so eager to rush things and just establish so
Hmm.
many people like so quickly. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess like filmmaking wise, I really appreciated the action scenes. I feel like there were a lot of parts where I feel like James Gunn was definitely like reeling himself back. Like there was a lot of like eyeball stuff and like those bombs go off in that monster's stomach. And like, they
Hmm.
joke about like Crypto like tearing up the cows. And like there's a lot of like
Yeah.
James Gunn like jokes I could imagine happening that have happened in like edgier projects like Slither or the Suicide Squad, um, where it's like he's able to like go violent without it like getting like too gratuitous and scary for like
Hmm.
general audiences, which I think is fine.
Yeah.
I think it
Hmm.
towed the line like really well, where it's like you know it got just close enough to like you know kind of gross
Yeah.
brutality to where it was like the action scenes were like really engaging and fun.
I was actually surprised by some of the stuff that he was able to like put in this. Not only just the cursing, but the one that really got me was the Lex Luthor killing that falafel stand guy.
Yeah.
And it's both impactful and it ends up being kind of like a funny joke, but it's also a good opportunity. It was a great scene showing how Superman feels about even just like this one guy that he barely knew, that gave him like food one time, and that he still, even though that he's not close to this guy whatsoever, like he still feels pain for that loss, because he's just so like in his way of like being just that all-American for truth and justice and for people, for the little people.
Hmm. Yeah. Normally in movies like this, I'm trying to remember like an example, but sometimes they will do something like that where it's like they'll have this like overly nice character in the beginning, and then uh, you'll find out that they like died at the end, and like you won't feel anything because of just like how, like in an action movie, like so many people have like died already, to the point where it's like, oh, but we knew this guy for like a few seconds, so this guy's important because he said something. But in this case, like they really hone in on the fact that Superman values all life. At any opportunity that he can, he will save the smallest creature. He'll move the destruction out of the way of like populated areas, and like you can tell that's just like a really important to him, and that by the time that does happen, and like they do kill a random citizen that he met once, I feel like that kind of emotional reaction from him is completely earned, and I think it's one of the better examples of that kind of trope, but done in a way that like actually means something to the main character himself, and not just like, oh well, all this crazy stuff has been happening so far, but it's really important that we save the one guy who like spoke.
Just that fucking scene in Man of Steel where like he's just like, oh, so broken up that he had to kill Zod because he was gonna kill this family, but dude, you just like got done like smashing through fucking like buildings with thousands of people in them.
Yeah, he kind of has this like
this one, he'll there's a scene where he blocks or tries to block this big fireball from the monster that he's fighting, and he takes the time to look around and like ask everyone if they're okay. It's just that little things that just add to the overall goodness, and really shows off those core elements of that character that for whatever reason like other directors just couldn't like encapsulate very well. And I think that's just like super well done, like you said, like the tiniest like little squirrel to like a big giant ugly monster.
When it came to Zack Snyder's interpretation, he certainly had people that he cared about, that you understood why his circle of friends was like so important to him. But honestly, like anyone outside of that, he really was just like kind of fuck him. Like it's a real burden on him to like save anyone else who isn't like his family members or his girlfriend. And like he it's just like watching those fight scenes in Man of Steel, just like watching him, like he saves his mom, but like immediately he's just so eager to like throw him into buildings. It's not just like, oh, he disregards like shit that's being thrown at him and he dodges it and doesn't really protect people behind him. Like, no, he intentionally smashes him into buildings as much as possible, so that he can hurt him as much as possible. And he doesn't really care about the range of his heat vision whatsoever, and it'll just like whatever happens. I'm sorry if you're anywhere in a like 100-mile proximity, you're going to get fucked by like my issues, basically. Yeah. And I especially loved in this new movie how it was like maybe 2/3 into it when he finally used his heat vision to harm anyone. Like he's as efficient as possible with his superpowers to take care of things in the least violent way. It's mostly self-defense and just like making sure that whatever's attacking him doesn't wind up hurting other people. And that's just a great way to do that, because like even in Batman v Superman, the only way they basically just said like, oh, don't worry, he's on a unpopulated island, and then it's just like the exact same headache inducing action. Like I feel like you can be a lot more creative when your goal is not to kill the supervillain, and there's a place for that in plenty of superhero movies and action movies. But like that was something I also liked about Spider-Man No Way Home, which was that it was such a unique kind of climax. Like we're specifically, our goal is to cure all of these supervillains, and you know, how do we cure these people who are trying to kill us? So it was, you get a lot of like really interesting stuff of like people holding themselves back, and then like, you know, there's at least one character who is pushed too far, and he's like, no, but I have personal beef with him, and you wonder, you know, it means something when you're contrasting that with like everyone else and how he's dealt with them. So yeah, I felt I saw a lot of that in this movie, and I like how I like it when the climax of any given superhero movie is not just to like, you know, kill the bad guy. I feel like there's just a lot more creativity that's derived from that.
But in that same vein, I just have that little pet peeve of like I was saying, he'll save everybody and check on everybody, but I don't know. Maybe in context, it was supposed to happen like really fast, so he couldn't really do anything. But like, at least an attempt to save his like bizarro self that looks exactly like him would have been nice. Especially if you're gonna show him going out of his way to help people and help everything, even down, you know, to the smallest animals. Like, I mean, it's a whole like living person that looks exactly like you. You'd think at least like some kind of attempt to, but I like I said, I guess in context, like, it just happened too fast for him to really do anything.
Yeah,
that's just like a very small thing to me.
Yeah, it was again just like something that needed a lot more time if they wanted to have Bizarro here at all. Like if they just wanted, you know, Ultraman just to like have an imposing villain, that's fine. But like, it really was just unnecessary if they didn't have time for that. And they didn't need 30 more minutes developing him. They just needed to allocate characters and time better. Because Metamorpho, like, that was a character I was pretty excited to see out of everyone, because I really love his story in the Justice League show, and he is a very imposing character because he can literally like do anything. He can turn into any form of matter, any liquid, gas, or solid. So like, if he's kind of interesting because like sometimes he is this anti-hero, other times he's, you know, friends with the Justice League, and sometimes he can be a villain. He functions differently in a lot of different stories, and it's really threatening having a guy like that in any kind of narrative, because like you just don't know when, you know, someone will be able to manipulate him, or he'll just like have, you know, a different set of goals from the main heroes, because he can just kind of immediately like fuck everyone up. And in this movie, he, you know, he's there, he serves a purpose, he pretty easily is turned to the good side, like reasonably, but at the same time just like there are like prison scenes that I've seen in other movies where it's like, you know, these really there's this really skilled guy there, the main character wants to like partner with them because like, you know, we can get out of here, and the other guy is just like, no man, I tried everything, like it's impossible. But by the time the prison break happens, I'm just like, what? Huh? What was holding you back from doing anything? Like you're crazy overpowered. Like there, which is why like it's harder for him to like be on the good side in like most stories. Not all of them, but like most of them, unless you're just doing something comedic and cartoony and just taking advantage of his like zany powers. It's kind of hard for him to like, for me to take him like seriously in this particular movie, because he functions more as like a tool. Like he's like, oh, you gotta save my baby because I can't hold him when I'm changing forms, and then later he can just like, he can pull him out by like doing all these crazy stretches and stuff, and like it's just like, I don't really they were really just like using him for like these really specific things, and I wish that again he was like, you know, one of maybe two villains in a different movie, because I really like him as a concept, but just like when he's in this big of a group and you don't have time to really develop him besides just he has a wife and a kid. Like
Yeah.
he's just a tool at that point, and
Mm-hmm.
I just I'm not really sure why he needed to be there.
Yeah.
Like
And
other
like
than
you were
just like
saying,
yeah
like and like you were saying with that trope of just being stuck in jail, I've also just seen that trope of like, oh, the main villain's hired this other villain to keep the superhero down, but it's only because he's got like his baby or his family or like something like that, and then the hero just kind of convinces him to help him anyways. Um, just I've just seen that in like so many superhero like properties, not only in movies and TV shows, but comics and stuff. And I think that's kind of a problem with the whole movie as well, is that they kind of, I don't know, it's enjoyable and it's done well, but there's a lot of just tropes and just things I've seen before. The whole, oh, it's your actions, it's what you do, it's not who you, where you come from. Like I've seen that in a lot of shit too. Um, it's just these themes that I've just seen reiterate over and over again in so many things. It's like I said, it's done well in this, but you know, it's not something that's gonna set the world on fire, and that's why I liked this movie. But it's not something great on the level of something like a Dark Knight or like a Spider-Man 2 or something like that.
yeah. Uh, and again, like it's not necessarily because it's not just doing what the Dark Knight and Spider-Man 2 did. It's just because like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like it's so eager to like do all this crazy stuff at once, when reeling it back for just the introduction of this version of Superman really would have
Mm-hmm.
helped and made it more of its own thing, as opposed to just like this promise of a DC new timeline thing.
Yeah, a good DC movie.
Yeah, like do a good Iron Man movie, and then you make
Mm-hmm.
the universe. You can't just like
Yeah.
you can't. This is the better case scenario Mummy movie, where it's just like so much shit that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the Mummy. That's just like
Shit
that
for later.
yeah.
Or shit to set up something, or shit just to, so you have that person so you can use them for another movie. And I didn't feel like too much of that. I mentioned the Justice Gang stuff, and that and the Supergirl cameo at the end are like kind of the only two big things that I really felt was kind of like that. Something just like, okay, let's put her in here because we're making a Supergirl movie next, and they need to know about her. Or like the Justice Gang, it's got to be a Justice League, like not really. I mean, you could have still just had like just Guy and just maybe like Metamorpho, and I think it still would have worked pretty well.
Yeah. And by the end, like I guess, like it's these things that like have their relevancy, but they're so ingrained to the plot. It's like a double-edged sword, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, these people justify their reasons for being here, but
Yeah.
it's just too much too soon, to where it's like I'd never really
Mm-hmm.
fell in love with any of these new characters. I like them well enough,
Mm-hmm.
but they could have had
Yeah.
their chance to really connect with people if they had their own focus project, like a Guardians of the Galaxy, where yeah, they are a bunch of obscure characters that you don't necessarily see individually all of their upbringings, but like one by one, as you go through and you figure out like, all right, when is it enough to just say their past and you totally get it, you don't have to see Drax's family or anything, and when is it
Mm-hmm.
important to like finally reveal, okay, Gamora is connected to Thanos, we should probably show that in her movie where she's interacting with him. But yeah, like the Guardians movies, even with those like random Ravager like setups, they never really felt like they were overstepping their boundaries as far as that was concerned. Like
Mm-hmm.
only in like maybe Guardians 3, like they were just forced to acknowledge what had happened in between the second and third movie, which you can't really avoid because like one of the main characters is completely different. But again, just like those three feel much cleaner as a package than this one does.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's kind of all I have left to say about it. So to sum up, I
Yep.
really think that at its core, it gets Superman the most out of all the movies that I've seen from, you know, DC in live action. Um, but yeah, I just feel like it still kind of has those problems that like modern superhero movies do have. Not every
Mm-hmm.
single one, but just like something that'll always bug
Mm-hmm.
me is when like they feel the need to like immediately like expect so much from the audience that they'll just like
Uh-huh.
that it just kind of hinders like the actual narrative of the movie itself. That it's just like
Mm-hmm.
you have to do your homework even in this new completely different adaptation of Superman. Like you don't have to watch any movies, but you do have to have like a decent knowledge of like
Yeah.
Superman and his adventures to like and his side characters to really, really get into this. And
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't have to be that way. It brings it
Yeah.
from like a great movie to like a pretty good movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would rate it like for now a low 7 out of 10, but still a
Yeah.
deserved like I enjoyed this altogether. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
7 out of 10.
Yeah. No, and yeah, I feel the same way. I would also give it a 7 out of 10, but like you said, kind of a low seven. And if I were to watch it again, it might drop down to a 6. But who knows when I'd watch this again? It's just one of those. Oh, this was good, but I feel no need to go and see it again. You know, like I got what I wanted out of it. It entertained me. I liked the character that they made of Superman, and I'm completely satisfied. And shit, might not even think about it again. But who knows? Yeah, 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Too woke.
Yeah, if he decimated that other country, I feel like that would have really
Yeah, no, yeah.
that would have
If
really
he
brought
just,
it all
like,
home and made it all worth it.
Yeah, if like his dad, had like a giant alligator running toward him, and he like looked at him and like shook his head, no, don't save me, and he got eaten, I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah. But yeah, we have a recommendation from Adrian. Take it away.
Yay! Yeah. Yeah, I recommended The Wrestler from Darren Aronofsky, starring Mickey Rourke and Marissa Tomei, which I was surprised to see her in that because I didn't really look at the cast beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's about a aging old wrestler named Randy, who kind of is in this kind of at the end of his career. He's broken down and been wrestling for a long time. They take a good amount to mention like his big match, the one he's like really well known for, was like in the mid '80s, and now it's like 30 years later, and like he's in the twilight of his career, and he kind of just starts to realize that he's just not that person anymore, and starts this long kind of process of trying to give it up, really. And through that, he connects back with his daughter, and you see all these different aspects of his life and just the toll. And that's what I really liked about this film, was that they really took the time to show you the toll of being a wrestler, and how much that like takes out of you, not only mentally but like physically as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what'd you think?
I thought it was awesome. I really
Yeah.
loved Mickey Rourke in this. I hadn't really seen much of him outside of Iron Man 2. I had such a different idea of like who he was. And I didn't really like think like, oh man, like, I got to see more Mickey Rourke movies. But he crops up here and there. He has this cameo in Buffalo 66, and he sounds a lot closer to this, which is probably just because that's his normal voice. But that was like my first proper like, okay, this is who Mickey Rourke is. And no shade on like him character acting in Iron Man 2, but like seeing him in this, I just really fell in love with his character. I loved how
Mm-hmm.
he for someone who really values the glory days, he still has a lot of heart, and he loves, his colleagues, like Marissa Tomei's character. He earnestly wants to connect with his daughter again, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, it doesn't feel like these kind of contradicting things where it's like, oh, he values wrestling more than people, but he's also like a super nice guy. It's like, no, like he's being pulled apart
Mm-hmm.
by like his vices, and just like
Mm-hmm.
having lived his life only pouring himself into his appearance, basically, and his
Mm-hmm.
whatever brought him the most glory and attention. That is the consequences of having lived your life like that for 20 years. It's like you can still
Mm-hmm.
do that, but like they really make it a point that like he just kind of disregarded everyone else, and they probably only really,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I remember, only really connected to Marissa Tomei, kind of like uh, progressively as his career was winding down.
Mm-hmm.
Like they seem to be longtime friends, but as far as like, that kind of existing simultaneously with his with the height of his wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
um, like I just don't really see that happening like as he was like making the most of his wrestling job. And um, I just love how like throughout the movie, as he tries and fails to get back with these people, it kind of highlights the brutality of the ring as being like his safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I love how that
Yeah.
juxtaposes how he feels in it. Like he does this like insane stuff in the tipping point for
Mm-hmm.
him pretty much not being able to wrestle again. Was him having that fight with that bearded guy, and they just have all these like
Yeah.
props in the ring, and like they're literal like harmful glass and a
Yeah.
nail gun, and it's just all like, all these gimmicks, all these this crazy stuff. And it's like, even though and I don't follow wrestling, and I know
Mm-hmm.
like it's known that it's all like rigged, and like people know who's gonna like
Yeah.
win or lose beforehand.
I would say I prefer the term pre-established or like predetermined,
Yeah.
because that's another thing I really liked about this movie. Like it very much portrayed wrestling like how it is. I didn't mention it, but I'm a big wrestling fan. I'm kind of the opposite of you. Like I'm a big wrestling guy. I really really like it. I mean, it's probably people have noticed my throat's a little, or my voice is a little coarse, and then I'm kind of uh, my voice is breaking a little bit. I just got back from a big wrestling show where I just like screamed for like 6 hours, but that's something it showed really well, was just like the realism of like what these guys do. And it's a lot of like, yeah, it's predetermined who's gonna win, but they still have to do everything. They still have to. You can't fake jumping off the top.
Yeah,
There's no way to really fake that.
that's what I was about to
And you
say, is
can't.
that even though the outcomes are predetermined, they do have to like pull all that stuff off. And it's, again, that juxtaposition of like, this is my safe space because I'll always know what's going to happen, contrasts with the fact that he is, tearing himself up, and like it's ultimately
Mm-hmm.
like a bad thing for his well-being, is that he would
Mm-hmm.
rather be here destroying himself rather than face the reality of his relationships. And like seeing
Mm-hmm.
him choose that over them like just says so much about who he is. And you
Yeah.
believe like why he would do that, even though he does clearly care about these people. It like falls apart by the end, and he has that chance
Mm-hmm.
to get back with Marissa Tomei, and he's like, well, I don't know if I can do that again, because at least
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen out
It,
there. Like,
Yeah.
and
It's this,
yeah, it's really
like,
powerful
kind of
stuff.
like he says. Yeah, like kind of like he says, it's like his like life, and people just reject him, and that's kind of the only thing he feels, like you said, like safe in. The only thing that kind of brings him joy, or where he can be just completely accepted, almost no matter what he does, because he's this big legend. And I really like the fact that throughout the movie, like, everybody knows who he is, right? Everyone knows his name and knows who he is, but he's still paradoxically living in his van and living in this, like, kind of shitty, like, RV home that he can barely pay for. But to him, that's not really matters. It's the fanfare and the audience, the crowd, that validation that he gets from coming out of the back and going into the ring. And also seeing I've seen a lot of wrestling documentaries and wrestlers talk about their lives, and that's really how a lot of real life wrestlers feel. That's the only kind of joy they can get. And once you kind of get addicted to it, like he's addicted to a lot of other things in the movie, you can't stop, because it's such a wonderful high, and you can't really get that from anywhere else in your life. And especially because he's not only poisoning himself with his body, but his mind too. His mind and his relationships, just like all kind of just pulling him apart. But this is kind of the one thing that's solid to him. And like you said, even though he like has a heart attack and all this, like literally at the beginning he's getting like staples pulled out of his body and like pieces of glass like getting picked out, he still doesn't regret it, because it's all about, to me, it's all about the validation of being a person and being seen. And I think that's also really well done and well written, or shown really well through like his name, how like he only wants to be portrayed in his wrestling name. He hates his real name. Like there's that scene where he gets like his name tag and it has his like real name on it, and he's just so annoyed by that. And anytime like in the scene where he's in the hospital and they call him Mr. I forgot his like real name, but Mr. like it's like Ramovich or something, but he's like, oh no, just call me Randy, like, he doesn't want to be, he even rejects his like real name, because it's all about what makes him feel good, and that's the wrestling, that's being this person that people admire.
I also like the kind of parallel with Marissa Tomei's character being this aging stripper, and how like they both want to be wanted, but it's hard for them to like genuinely want each other. Like he wants her, but at the same time, like, he does ultimately choose wrestling over her. And she like humors his like, getting closer and closer with him as a friend, but she can't seem to really like fully commit to him, and like it's like she doesn't really want to get close with anyone, and that's probably has a lot to do with the fact that she does have a son, and I'm sure there's a lot of like unspoken stuff that's really like impacted her decisions, and how she does genuinely seem to like him, but like she just doesn't want to go through that again. And you like, she's constantly like belittled by all these guys in the strip club, and not even out of like she can clearly take like lustful comments, but like she clearly hasn't gotten that in like so long. Everyone's just like so dismissive of her. She can't get any work like there anymore, just outside of like those guys in the beginning who were like immediately like, what the fuck, like you're like, as old as my mom. And like
no, I really like how in this movie she's just like, she's told or like portrayed as like an older woman and called old, but like in like Civil War and then like she's constantly like told that she's young and looks like good for her age, which is like a movie that came out like 8 years after this one. I just think that's a little funny.
I'm not saying anything about Marissa Tomei, like she's got MILF energy, but
they showed that, and
I mean they tried, like in the script they like they casted someone who was old enough, but like she's just too damn beautiful for that to be believable. But again, like she's a fantastic actor in this, and she really sells her like frustration with where she is in life. And I love that part at the very end where she leaves the strip club abruptly to like go see him because he's about to like essentially kill himself in the ring, like do his last big show, and someone offhandedly says, "Hey, you left your boots," and that's apparently an expression for wrestlers when they retire, and that's like a nice brief little thing to see. Like she just immediately dropped it, knowing that this was going to be like her last chance to see him. Some other cool facts I read up about is that it was apparently almost Nicolas Cage instead of Mickey Rourke.
Oh wow, really?
Darren Aronofsky, like he was pretty dead set on him from the beginning on Mickey Rourke, but for marketability, they were thinking like a bigger name like Nicolas Cage would have helped, and he just couldn't like get into that massive shape like as soon as possible. So like ultimately I do think that like this panned out for the best. Like as much as I love Nicolas Cage, and I'm always interested to see like his projects that almost could have been like, apparently he was almost going to be like American Psycho 2. Like that would have been, I can clearly see him there. And not that he doesn't have range, but like I'm very glad that it wound up being Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad they didn't do that, because I think he really fits what they're trying to go for. Not only, like I said earlier, I really liked how they showed how like broken his body was, and Mickey Rourke just has that kind of like rough like face.
Yeah.
That like this is like a like seasoned guy. This guy has done stuff, and it's just that little things like that. And something else I really liked that I saw was the little they didn't really call any attention to it, but his little I'm so dumb. What is it called? His hearing aid that he has on his ear, showing that he has some kind of like ear damage. And that's also a very common thing to happen to wrestlers, because there's a scene in the beginning where they're sitting in chairs slapping each other, and you do that enough next to your face, near your ears, you'll rupture an eardrum, and it's just those little things that really build onto like this guy has just completely torn up his body. He's just a broken man. Not only physically, but also like mentally, because another big chunk of the movie is dedicated to him trying to reconnect with his daughter, and him admitting that for a long time he didn't want to think that she existed, that she wasn't real, and that like he didn't need to care about her, because he was just so into this wrestling and in the spotlight that he just didn't want to think about anything else.
And I think she was very well done too. You can see just like like zero interaction with him for like 20 years. Like she would be just like completely unreceptive to him, and she like she has that good day with him. She humors him, but by the time that breakup happens at the end, that kind of initially feels conventional, like, oh man, you missed the date, like I hate you now, like you completely buy why she's like, no, like you literally were never there for me, and I cannot like live with the expectation of you getting back into my life and you just like never being able to deliver, because just like the person that you are and who you've proven to me to be, even with you trying to improve, like it's easier for me to cut you out of my life than it is to have any faith that you'll ever be there for me again. By the end it really is like a complete loss that winds up pushing him to just like go all in on his final venture. That there's that final shot, like I just love how framing wise he's ascending from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen until he's like completely like gone, but in the reality of the space he is falling, and that is just like that's a way of like depicting him basically just like entering the afterlife. Like his soul is just like left in that moment basically, even though you don't see it. That is him literally falling, but kind of metaphorically just like his final action before he dies.
And Darren Aronofsky, I guess, really likes these kind of broken, flawed like characters like this, like people who've just been consumed by something that even though like the only other movie I've seen from him is The Whale, but I see a lot of similarities in that in this, you know, like a broken relationship with a daughter, like addiction to something that's just like tearing you apart, where you know in The Whale it's like food and like depression, but in this, you know, it's kind of the rush of not only physically wrestling but the crowd, and that's also something I think is very well portrayed. It's just the high you get from being cheered on and from being, you know, again like idolized, and in this way, like even they have that scene where he first starts working at the little meat counter, and he's like doing this long walk and goes through these kind of like plastic kind of curtain looking things, and all he can imagine is like the crowd outside and them like hyping him up and him getting ready to step out there. But it's really also him trying to kind of leave that behind and start a normal life, or start what he kind of thinks should be a normal life.
Yeah, all these like really normal, mundane things that he goes through, but like is just so compelling because of the kind of person that he is. I love how those two scenes of him working behind the meat counter, the first one being like, you know, I'm gonna make the most of this because you know I have all these like prospects going with, like, you know, I think that was that after he had seen his daughter and like actually like successfully had that day with her.
I think that was before, because it was after the first time he had seen her, but after the scene with him and Marissa Tomei going to that like thrift store, and him like trying to get her a present. I believe it was kind of in the middle of that, and then the second scene of him kind of having that day with his daughter.
Yeah, it's like his disposition of like having these things to look forward to versus like his relationships falling apart, kind of revealing who he really is, and when he doesn't have anything to go to after his job, he basically views it as like this is what I am now. Like I went from you know all this fame, and like that guy recognizes him, and he's just like, you know, I'm if I don't have anyone, then like I'm just gonna go directly into what's gonna you know make me feel good. And that does just show his true colors, as far as just like, you know, he can be friendly, but like ultimately he's kind of like a self-centered guy, and it's not like overdone in a way where it's like he's just like an obvious like cocky like, you know, asshole for the most part. It's the actual actions that he does despite what he wants to do, how he goes about it, and because, where he focuses his kind of priorities is what winds up biting him in the ass, is that he doesn't practice what he preach more often than not.
Yeah, and it's just kind of going back to your vices, you know. I think a lot of it after the kind of heart attack and diagnosis is him trying to rebuild his life. They very much show that even though everyone respects him and knows him, he doesn't really have any real relationships with anybody. Like even like he invites that, like all the kids know him and want to like play with him and hang out with him, but he invites that one kid over to play like NES, and they talk about like Call of Duty, and he's just so out of touch and not actually connected with this kid that he just kind of like leaves. And you understand his want, like he wants these things, but it's like it's almost like, again, just like addiction. Like he just keeps going back to the thing that he's sure will give him what he wants. And I really like that scene after the second time he's working at the county, and like cuts his hand, and he like comes back into the car, because you know he's trying to be Robin, he's trying to be his real self, and he just tells himself, you know, I'm not Robin, I'm Randy, that's who I am, Randy. And it's just that fall back into that, because like he says at the end of the movie, like real life just doesn't like him, or he can't do it, because he's just been Randy for so long, he can't be Robin anymore.
Yeah, I found that to be the easily the best part of this whole thing, that makes it easy for me to connect with it, even though like
Hmm.
I wasn't like immediately into like the concept of it. Like I heard of it for a long time, was just like, it's a wrestler, and but actually having watched it, I just love the way that it depicts what you actually want doesn't match what you actually do, in
Hmm.
such a way where it's like it's not enough to just like want to have all these relationships and like fix what was broken with like these people that you, I mean, he wasn't even close to his daughter, but just like wanting to start that
Hmm.
at this point in his life. It's like you can have all the sincere genuine intentions in the world, but you
Hmm.
will get in your own way ultimately if that's where you've stocked up your value in life, is
Hmm.
if it's in these like temporary things, as opposed to actually making connections with people. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's just not done very often without it being like super obvious that
Yeah.
he's just like a guy who only values fame and is just like the typical like celebrity who's washed up and bitter about it. Like he's just a normal guy, but he sells it so well, and you understand why he does everything that he does, even when it's not the right thing. It's like you see how he got to that point. Um,
Hmm.
and it's a character who's incredibly easy to connect with, even though he's like a
Hmm.
not a perfect guy.
Yeah, and he just has those relatable wants, wanting connection with people and wanting to be loved. Ultimately, really, I mean, I think that's indicative of why like only two main side characters are really like two women. When he's like trying to please or get to like him romantically, and when that he's trying to get to like him platonically or like him like family,
Mm-hmm.
because they also go out their way to mention that he has no other family either, and just show how really alone he is, again just not having any meaningful connections to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I also like how grimy everything is, like grimy and underground everything looks. There's not a whole lot of different sets, but everywhere he's going is like this kind of grimy strip club, this kind of like secondhand like shop, and even all the places he wrestles are all like hotels or like high schools, and it not only shows, I think, where he's at mentally, but also just where he's at in his life. Again, at the end of a career, kind of just getting by, performing in front of like 200 people in a fucking high school, but he's willing to do that because, and this is just a lot of, is a big problem with a lot of wrestlers that repeated a lot. If you watch a lot of documentaries like I do, that it's hard for them to give it up, especially if you've been doing it for so long. You just don't. It's almost like you don't know any other way besides that. It's like one of the most consuming like sports that you could really do.
Yeah, I can imagine it like really just like as soon as you've pushed yourself far enough to get into that position, like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you've kind of like built up this tolerance to the point where it's like you're kind of just like all into it. And yeah, this was a really good depiction of that. That could only truly be accurately portrayed by the writer of Turbo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the guy
Yeah.
wound up making DreamWorks Turbo after this.
Really, really.
Work is work, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's, I guess, sports adjacent. So I guess kind of. I've written a wrestling movie. I can write a kind of racing movie, I guess.
So that was fun
Yeah.
to find out. Yeah. Do you have anything else to
Huh?
say about it?
Um, no, just really solid. I'm glad I watched it. Just really, really profoundly sad, really, because like I said, this. You see the want of him wanting more, but just ultimately falling back into those addictions, not only with the wrestling but with the drugs as well that he ends up taking, and that kind of is what makes him miss the dinner for his um daughter that he was gonna have. Like, just perfectly encapsulates the character.
Mm-hmm.
When shit's hard, he just kind of goes back to the things he knows that will make him happy.
Mm-hmm. It does that without being like, just miserable, like, depression porn. It's melancholy, but there's enough just like really immediately relatable, authentic human interactions that make it something that I would want to watch again. And it's not just like this downer, like, oh, he kills himself at the end. It's not out of depression. It's just a character study of like, how someone like him gets into the place that he does, and how it takes a lot more than just like wanting to be a better person in order to change, And I think that's a really strong message that resonates with me, and I'm really happy to have experienced it. This was a really good recommendation, and I would
thank you.
Yeah, I would give it an 8 out of 10, a really high 8.
Yeah, I think I originally gave it a 7 on my letterbox, but just through this conversation, I think I'm also at like an 8. I was only thinking a 7 mainly because I've seen a lot of this stuff, the typical like a distant father, like addict, but just again through this conversation, like I really realized how well those tropes are written and played. And kind of like with Superman, you can do all these tropes and things that have been done in so many other things before. It's not what you do, it's like how you do it. And this just like nailed everything. Nothing was wasted, no time was wasted. Everything felt purposeful and in service to the main character, broken guy. So yeah, 8 out of 10 from me, raising it up.
Yeah, and I suppose that'll be it for this episode. The next recommendation.
Oh yeah,
we have another guest, and her name is her channel is Just Too Good. Her name is Sarah Genau, Genao. I should have practiced that before recording, but yeah. Our next guest, her name is Sarah. She has a YouTube channel that I've loved for many years, and they just started doing a movie channel like post 2020, I think, around that time, and I saw a lot of really good stuff from their reviews and podcasts talking about movies, and I just thought they would be very interesting for our stuff, and I was very pleased to already have another established YouTuber with us. So looking forward to that. And her recommendation is called Exotica from 1994. Which is great. I know nothing about it. I'm very excited to see what it's about. So yeah, that'll be just about it for this episode.
So yeah, that's it from us. So see ya.
Bye.